It's late December 2022. Happy holidays and welcome back to the Sunshine State Rails. Over the course of about a week in the latter part of December, we made a few trips to see some festive trains. Those which I haven't already posted to YouTube yet will be in this video. Starting with our annual visit to the Florida Railroad Museum to film their North Pole Express as it travels between Parrish and the North Pole of Florida at Willow. The first train of December 14th departs the platform at 5:15 p.m., 15 minutes earlier than previous years, the time bumped slightly forward to account for a longer train and more people. Meaning that as we set up at Dickey Road and Josh brought the train around the corner with 1835 cranked to the top, the very last sliver of today's sunlight would gleam off the train as it departs northbound from Manatee County. About 4 more miles north and we reach the North Pole of Florida. Decked out in Christmas lights and holiday cheer for the season, the North Pole of Florida's got just about everything from concession stands to train tables to meets with Santa Claus and roasting marshmallows on an open fire pit. There's always something for someone to do here every year. And I don't think that's an invalid statement. Every year this train gets longer and longer and never are they not sold out of tickets for this ride. Today's 5:15 trip with just about every other train they've ran in the past week has been at full capacity. And for good reason. This museum puts on one of the most impressive Christmas displays around. The crews would call good stop all stop and passengers would be free to disembark and enjoy the holiday festivities. Because the grills are cooking and Santa is waiting. However, you know who else is waiting? Another set of people back at Parrish. The museum runs 2 different train loads of people out here every night, and the second group was beginning to gather in Parrish. So now with an empty train, Engineer John would waste no time getting the CF7-204 back up to speed and taken off southbound. As John pulls the longest consist to date out of Willow, we'd move back down to Dickey Road for our last shot of the night. I wouldn't be out to film these guys all night because I've chased this train year after year, though I'd spend a bit of time on the train afterwards, but that wasn't anything to film. This would be the last video I'd take in Parrish for this night, but towns around Florida are festive all month long, and so that upcoming Saturday, we'd be right back out again. And welcome back to iconic, oh iconic, Plant City, Florida. It's not often that I take entire evenings to railfan this town nowadays, but I also know that they do amazing Christmas light displays every year, and I did want to see some action during that, so I devoted tonight to them. And on top of everything else, I'm quite glad that I did. The temperatures, in contrast to Wednesday at Parrish, were 20 degrees cooler, or somewhere in that neighborhood. Temperatures would be in the 60s this evening and tonight, which would make for a very relaxing evening, and really added that Christmassy feel to the lights and decorations that the town has strung on every street corner. The McCall Park that runs straight through downtown and parallels the A-line is covered head to toe in holiday illuminance. And perhaps returning viewers will recall that a previous weekend we visited the U.S. Sugar Railroad in Lake Placid, and now this Saturday in Plant City, another antique car show was going on, which included likely a lot of the same people. And once again, a car person I'm not, but I am always impressed by the pieces that these old folks bring out here to show off. And rightfully so. I'd like to assume that most of these old pieces costed a pretty penny to obtain and maintain, so the way I see it, these guys have earned the privilege to come out and show these off wherever they want. And all the while, the holiday decorations and Christmas music in the background added that festive feel to this month's meet. But the way I see it, it's not until the signals on the tracks go green that the town really comes alive. 'Cause that usually means that it's only a matter of minutes until the bells start ringing. And I don't mean the jingle bells. Blasting off from Tampa eastbound would be an Amtrak Silver Star number 92, carrying some holiday passengers northbound, bound for New York City. By this time of the year, people are starting to head north to meet family, and I'm sure Amtrak will play a crucial role in that connection this year. After the 92, I'd moved down westward to Collins Street because I knew another train would be following them out of Tampa. And again, the walk there was a most delightful one, with Christmas music and Christmas lights strung all the way. A buddy of mine, Christian, would find me totally unexpectedly just a few minutes before this next train arrived. With that next train being Tampa's nightly intermodal run to Jacksonville, I-44. I-44's typical itinerary consists of Tampa's outbound containers and UPS trailers that would have a couple of additions this evening. Firstly, those 3 company boxcars at the head of the train with those red lasers on the bottom. From what I know, those do not hump boxcars are fitted with electronics to scan for impurities or defects in the track below. They're basically rolling inspection devices that allow for impurities in the track that can't be seen with the naked eye to be detected so that maintenance crews can deal with them down the line. Behind those, he'd also have a block of Tropicana refrigerated boxcars. Florida rail fans from around 2017 will remember this practice where Tampa's intermodals would carry the Tropicana juice cars after they terminated the unit Tropicana juice train. It seems as though they've reverted to this practice now with the Tampa intermodals carrying them again. Personally, I really like this change, although I've also heard that they're only going to do this for the peak season, as in through the wintertime, though I can't confirm or deny whether that's true or not, and I can only hope that they keep it this way for at least a good while. By about this time of the night, all the car show folks had packed up and left, leaving ourselves and the townsfolk to nothing but Christmas lights and music. And so, walking amongst those and catching up with friends would pretty much be all that we had to do for the rest of the night until our next train would show up. But still a very enjoyable night it would be, as the temperature was still 60 degrees. Later on in the night, making our general rounds to check for action would reveal a high green clear signal indication just north of the diamond at Sandler Junction on the S line. This told us that within the next hour or so, a northbound train would grace the night. And within another 30 minutes, our train could be heard in the distance, and a horn commonly heard throughout the Canadian Rocky Mountains would echo through the festive city. As the gates of Martin Luther King Boulevard lower, to accompany our green signals would be a northbound B638-16. I suppose you could say the railroad's now getting in the spirit too with some holiday colors. 638 would be sporting a pair of Canadian Pacific foreign leaders on its way back to the interchange in Bensenville, Illinois near Chicago to the Canadian Pacific Railway with a train of empty ethanol tank cars in tow. Over the course of the past few days, this 5,000-foot-long string of tank cars would have been unloaded in the port of Tampa at the Hookers Point terminal, at which point the chemical will be mixed with gasoline and then sold commercially to customers at gas stations. This explains the stickers there that tell you there's usually up to 10% ethanol in your gasoline. And considering the time of year, I'll bet that most of the ethanol that was on this train will be used to get a lot of people across the country this holiday season. B638 having left Tampa this evening was just one of those instances where you just happened to luck out, because afterwards there really wasn't much of anything. For roughly the next hour it would be back to talking to friends and walking around and looking at the lights, including this yearly setup of a train between Palmer Street and the viewing platform parking lot. It was fairly easy to see this stuff now because the town had really died down since sunset, and it was getting to be that time of the night where only the sparse truck with blasting music from lowered windows would pass by. Though as the night ticked on, Palmer Street's view would tell an interesting upcoming story. We knew that two trains were in the future picture for the A line running east and west: local train L778 and intermodal train I-145. These two trains run in opposing directions, with L778 coming out of Tampa. Eventually, we'd make our way to Palmer Street and look down and see L778's headlight just down the track. Though at the same time, the signal visible for Palmer Street in that direction, the north end of Cherry Siding, was lit up green, which meant only one thing. They were holding L778 at or in Cherry Siding for I-145 to pass them. So we knew that once the high-priority container train crested the hill east of town, we'd have a 2-for-1 in about 5 minutes. I-145 is the Saturday night symbol for train I-045. The counterpart to I-044, this train is the nightly container and UPS run from Jacksonville to Tampa. They changed the symbol to an I-100 series on Saturday nights, supposedly to lower the priority of the train for whatever reason. Though it clearly doesn't matter in this case, as they still trump priority over the local L778. Like its counterpart I-044, this train has also started carrying Tropicana reefers, the empties returning from New Jersey, though perhaps, unironically, none of them were on the train tonight.
I-145, 3174 southbound.
And that left us with one final contender for the night, L778. 778's a fairly regular local switching job that primarily focuses between Tampa and Winston Yard near Lakeland. Their most common duty is shuttling empty and loaded rock hoppers between Tampa and Winston, though tonight none of them would be going out. They had tripped the Dover defect detector earlier just west of us. 2 engines, 4 cars. Alright, my friends, that's going to do it for rail fanning, at least down here in 2022. We're going to be heading to Tennessee in about a week, but God knows when that video is going to come out. But appreciate y'all for sticking around with me throughout this year and all the very interesting things that happened throughout it. And that's about it. So, Plant City, under some holiday cheer. Hope to see you next year, somewhere, on the Sunshine State Rails.